Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Dakota and this is my knitting podcast called Joyandknitting, where we talk about knitting and maybe some other things. I am a knitter based in New Jersey in the US, so hi to all my New Jersey friends that are watching. Yeah, I'm filming in my bedroom today. I got some new plants, so I wanted to showcase them and give them some love. I got a pothos that, she's doing okay. I got it because it was just like the leaves were wilting a little bit, so I wanted to give it some love. And I also got an elephant ear that is down there, that's doing pretty well also. So, I don't know, just if you're interested in plants, those are my new babies. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about some finished objects and works in progress and yarn acquisitions, just like a traditional podcast. And yeah, I have two things that are done. November was interesting. I think Bethany from Well Love Knits coined this term. I definitely had some chaotic cast on energy. I just wanted to cast on a bunch of things and buy a bunch of yarn because I had been on a yarn ban, so I finally was able to buy some yarn and I just wanted to cast it all on, but I managed to get through two projects and we have some new ones now. So yeah, grab a drink. I have a cold cup of coffee here in my yellow mug, but maybe I'll take some sips from that. It's officially pretty much winter here in at least the northeast of the US, and it's really cold, but that just means more knitting, so, or at least more knitting warm, comfy things. So that leads us into my first finished object, which is this hat that I'm wearing. This is my August hat, or the August hat by Sari Nordland. I'll try to get it all in the frame here. I'm having a crazy hair day, so I'm just gonna leave the hat on, but this is it. I found out about this hat through Anna, who is another person here on YouTube that knits and has a knitting podcast, so I'll leave her down below. She's really great and she's knitting some really exciting stuff right now, so I highly recommend checking her out, just saying. But I found out about this hat through her, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want to knit that hat. I've never done full cables before. I'll try to get some good shots in here. I've never knit like a full cable project before, or I've knit like mock cables, but I've never knit using like my cable needle, so this was the first time to do like these horseshoe cables. It was my first time using cable needles, so surprisingly it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I don't know if it's because like I've already done faux cables that it was easier for me to like get the hang of these cables, and really I just had to look up a video. I got a little bit confused when like it would say like 2/4 cables or something. I would get a little bit confused, but just like a quick search on YouTube helped, and yeah, it flew by. So the original pattern called for, I think, an Aran weight yarn, but I wanted to use DK. I didn't modify it at all because I didn't want to be messing with the stitch count while trying to do these cables. I was just too afraid that I would mess something up, so I just kept it as it is, and it ended up working out. But if anything, it ended up a little bit too big, but I'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, I used the it was Rowan soft alpaca DK that I talked about in my last video. I hadn't even casted this on 2 weeks ago, so but I did talk about the yarn. It's very soft. It's in this beautiful soft dusty lavender color that just reminds me of like the winter dusty sunsets, at least here in the northeast of the US, that I've grown up with. So yeah, I was really drawn to this, and I don't know, I just like had an itch to knit with purple. I think just seeing other knitters knitting with this color, I was inspired. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, I want to knit that hat with this color. But the gauge ended up working out. And what else? So where was I going with that? Yeah, it ended up being a little bit too big, I think, because I blocked it too much. In the pattern, it says to block lightly, so I thought that just letting it soak for like 10 minutes would be okay, but that was clearly a little bit too long, because not that there's anything wrong with how it turned out, but the yarn just kind of like melted once I blocked it, and it has a really nice drape to it, where I think in the pattern, and even looking at Anna's version, it's more like stiff and structured and pointy at the top, where mine is a little more like droopy, which is fine. I really like how it turned out, and I'm getting a lot of wear out of this already. I considered knitting this with a mohair, but honestly I was just not feeling mohair. I like mohair, and I like how functional it is. Like, it's very warm, so especially in the winter months, it's very logical to be using mohair. But I don't know, I just, with cables, like, it was my first time doing cables, I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it, so I ended up not using mohair, although I'm sure there are so many awesome mohairs out there that would pair very nicely with this color. I'm already thinking of, like, knitting for Olive, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. And it's funny because when I watched Anna's video and she had made this, she had actually hand dyed the yarn that she used, and it turned out in this really nice like tan color, and she used avocado pits to dye it, which is really cool. But she said that she wasn't really happy with how the color turned out, so she ended up dyeing it again. And I just saw, like, a day ago when I was watching her newest podcast episode, that she dyed it to be like a berry color, which, so it's kind of funny that we ended up dyeing, like, or not dyeing, making like the same thing. But yeah, what else do I want to say about this? I ended up sewing in the sides, so I don't know if you can see, the brim lays a little bit weird on me, and it sticks out a little bit on the sides, which I don't love. I want it to be flat, but it's a little big, so I ended up sewing in the sides, and hopefully it's not that obvious, but it is what it is. I do want to say about the pattern, it's a lovely pattern. I think maybe not beginner friendly, but if you have a little bit of experience with just like a variety of techniques, maybe some faux cables, I think you'll be fine to knit this. Complete beginner, no, I wouldn't recommend. I think just knitting a plain hat is hard enough when you're first starting out. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, so the pattern comes with written instructions and chart instructions, which I appreciate a lot because I'm more of a written instruction kind of person. It's just easier for me to navigate a written, but I'm okay with chart as well. And I will say, once you start decreasing up here, it goes to just chart. So like, it starts out written, but then you have to translate the chart. I don't know why it's like that, but it is, so it's a good skill to have if you know how to read a chart. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about this hat. It's lovely. I would totally knit it again, maybe using like the recommended yarn. I think she used Knitting for Olive, merino, and mohair. So I don't know, I think it's lovely. I actually, for my birthday, was gifted a book of cables, so I kind of want to just like get creative and maybe make something with cables from that book. I don't know. But yeah, this is my finished August hat. It took me like 5 days, and it's by Sari Nordland, and I would highly recommend this pattern. So moving on to my second finished object, I think I have it here. I definitely talked about this in my last podcast, and I knew I would have it done by now. It worked up so quickly. And this is my weekend slipover by Petite Knit that I was talking about. I went into detail about how ever since I saw Woolfolk yarn in my local yarn store when I first started knitting, I was obsessed with it and definitely knew I wanted to knit with it one day. So my birthday, my 28th birthday, was the year that I was gonna buy myself this yarn. So I knit this in Woolfolk Far in the color 23. It's definitely getting washed out on camera. It's a very like hazelnut, well, maybe that looks nice. It's pretty warm. Hazelnut, like chestnut brown. It's beautiful. It's so soft and buttery, and the drape of this fabric after blocking is just incredible. Yeah, here she is in all of her glory, my weekend slipper. I forget that this is a Petite Knit pattern because to me it's just like, it's very basic, and I didn't heavily rely on the pattern, so I just forget that I used that pattern, but for reference it is that pattern. I just modified the neck to make a turtleneck, and it sits quite high above my neck. It keeps my neck very warm. Other than that, I didn't modify it. I did use a different yarn than recommended, so the pattern calls for, I forget what yarn exactly, but I know she knits it on a 5.5 millimeter needles, and I knit it on a 4.5, so I just sized up to a medium, and it fits pretty, not like tight, but it's pretty form-fitting on me. Like, there's still some positive ease, but it's not nearly as much as like typically what I would make, I guess, like a typical Petite Knit pattern. So sizing down definitely changed the gauge, but it's fine. I love how it turned out. I posted a picture of it on my Instagram, so if you want to check out my Instagram, I'll leave it linked down below. Yeah, so the pattern I would say is very beginner friendly. It was very easy to follow. I barely needed to follow it. I really just used it as like a what's the word? A guide to know how many stitches to cast on. But it's like a typical, I forget what like style of like structure this is, but the construction of the pullover is like you cast on the back of the neck, do your short rows, and then you eventually split and do the front panels, so like the front and left side, and then eventually like you do armhole increases and you join in the front. So it's a little bit annoying because you do have to knit flat for half of the project. So there's a lot of purling, but and there's a lot of loose ends that you have to hide, but other than that, it's fine. Like once you're joined in the round, it's totally fine. And even not, it's fine. I don't want to complain. I don't mind the construction. Yeah, so what else do I have to say about this? I don't know. Like, the pattern is the pattern. For me, it's really the yarn. Like, what shines for me is the yarn. Especially after blocking, like this yarn, I think I had said it with this yarn too, like the yarn just completely melted together, and like it created this beautiful drape. It was looking a little stiff before. The yarn is quite stretchy, but it was looking a little bit stiff. I actually have a horror story about blocking this, which is really embarrassing, but I'm gonna share it anyway so that none of you make this mistake. So typically I block my stuff outside on my front porch, and in New Jersey, like the days have been averaging now like 40s, but when I knit this it was like a 50-degree day. So I soaked it, I let it sit outside, and then I went to work at like 5 p.m. I got home at 11 and I just wanted to check on it, and it was frozen solid. it was like a big rock, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, Dakota, what were you thinking? Like, why would you leave this outside? You know that it's gonna freeze. Like, I don't know, it just didn't register in my head that yarn could freeze. So I was so panicked that I had ruined this, and it would have been really upsetting because this yarn is very expensive, and I just would have been so sad. So I brought it inside and I let it sit on on my table on a towel, and it defrosted, and luckily nothing was wrong. It wasn't ruined, and the fiber, at least as far as I know, the fiber feels perfect. I don't know, like, if it's supposed to feel another way, but it feels totally fine to me. So yeah, I enjoy wearing this with like a turtleneck underneath, just a long sleeve shirt, or even a short sleeve shirt underneath. It looks very nice. It's very classic, and it's very warm as well. So I can't wait to wear this all winter. I think I'll get a lot of wear out of it, and I've decided I'm definitely going to buy this yarn again. There's a few projects I want to try. So the zipper sweater by Petite Knit, I would love to knit that in this yarn. I think it would be perfect. And then also, it's not this yarn, but it's another Woolfolk yarn. They have a pattern. It's a cable knit cardigan, oversized cardigan that I love. And they knit it in their, like, I don't think it's mohair, and I don't think it's Sari. I don't know what it's called, but it's a Woolfolk yarn that's very nice. So I would like to experiment with that as well. But that will be way in the future, because I need to save up some money to be able to do that. So yeah, this is my weekend slipover by Petite Knit in Woolfolk Far in the color 23. So that's all I have for finished objects. Now we will talk about works in progress. By the way, I don't think I mentioned, I did not knit this cardigan. I don't know if anyone will ask, but I didn't knit it. I think I got this from Target, so, or Goodwill, I'm not sure. Although, it would be interesting to repurpose this. Anyway, so let's talk about works in progress. I have three, but one, the socks, I'm just going to briefly talk about because I've already talked about these and they're still not done. So if you remember in my last podcast, I talked about these socks. This is my finished sock that I showed. It's already blocked. It's all done. These are my Lights on Main socks by, I think you pronounce it Hygge Canyon. I'll leave it down below. It was part of like an Advent thing that she did. And yeah, I love the pattern, but I'm definitely stuck on Sock Island, or I have second sock syndrome, I don't know, but getting through the second sock has been kind of painful. I haven't wanted to knit it, maybe because like I've just been distracted with other things, but this is as far as I've gotten on the second sock. I think I finished the heel flap, and I'm so unmotivated that I messed up, but I don't care. I messed up the heel flap, but I don't care. I don't want to go back. It's barely noticeable. I think only if you knew the pattern you would know that I messed up. So all I have to do now is do the heel turn and then pick up my gusset and then continue on with the sock. I'm really happy with how this sock turned out. Like, looking at the stitch definition, I'm really happy with it. So I'm excited to get these done. I've just been not feeling it lately, so I'm not going to say much about it just because I've already talked about it, and you'll see them when they're done. I have this much yarn left, which I think is plenty. I'll probably have left over. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so my next one, I'll talk about the smaller one first. I'll talk about my birthday yarn. I shared a picture of this on my Instagram. So for my birthday last week, it was the day before Thanksgiving, so I went into the city. It's like a 35-minute bus ride to the city, so I love going to the city. It was a beautiful sunny day, and my friend and I took a trip to Manhattan. And of course we visited Knitty City, which is the best yarn store in my opinion in Manhattan. If you're ever visiting, please check them out. They're awesome there. The workers are great. Like, the people that work there are so helpful. They're so creative. So if you ever have any like creativity questions, you can ask them. It's just great. They have great selection. Highly recommend. So yeah, I went there on my birthday, and overall the day was just very nice. We went to Central Park and walked around. We actually got to see the parade floats. I didn't realize that they set up the parade floats the day before Thanksgiving, like the Thanksgiving parade, so we got to see all of that, and we went and got coffee and food and typical stuff in the city, I guess. So yeah, I picked up some birthday yarn, and it's special because, one, my friend got it for me, but also he helped me pick it out. Like, honestly, this is mostly him that picked this out, which I don't know, there's a dog barking, sorry. I don't know how I feel about it together, but it's special nonetheless. So these are the 2 yarns I got. I already made one of the 2 things, so I wanted to make mittens, and I knew I wanted to use a mohair because it would keep my hands extra warm. And I saw this yarn and I was so intrigued by it because, like, I'm not a gray person. I don't gravitate towards gray, but I saw this and I was really intrigued because it's not like just gray. It has like these gunmetal, silver, blue tones in it. Just like really interesting. So yeah, I saw it and I asked my friend, I was like, what do you think of this color? And he was like, I love that color, you should get it. Because I was between this and another yarn that was more like pink beige. But of course he recommended this one, so I was like, fine, I'll get that one. But this is a superwash wool. So this yarn is by the brand for Kraeo, I think that's how you say it. And they're based in Chicago. This is their Uncle Mulberry worsted weight in the color Slate. And it's 85% superwash merino and 15% mulberry silk. There's 215 yards in one skein. Yeah, so one, it's worsted weight, and I've never used mulberry. It's very soft. The only thing is it's superwash, so although very comfortable, it's not going to keep my hands as warm as, say, like a 100% wool, like untouched wool. So I paired it with a mohair, and I was having such a hard time picking the mohair because, like, I see this and it's gray, but there's like blue tones, so I'm thinking like it would look really nice to get a blue mohair. But I had originally seen this really nice mohair, but it wasn't even mohair. I think it was Sari. It was too thick, so I needed a lace weight. So I saw this yarn. I also saw a dark gray, and honestly I'm kind of thinking now I should have went with that just for like wearability purposes, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I ended up going with this mohair, and this is the Rowan Kidsilk Haze in the color Heavenly, and that's exactly like what this is. It's coming up a little bit brighter on my camera, I think, but it's like a winter's day, not a cloud in the sky blue. So yeah, I chose these together, and let me show you the mitten. I've already completed one of them and it knit up in like 5 hours, so I can get the second one done pretty quickly. This is the mitten. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I think it's beautiful, but it's just so not in like my color palette at all, and you know what, that's okay. It definitely needs to be blocked, that's for sure, but you can see closely there's like all these different color specks of gray and white and blue. The blue like really takes over, but what I like is that it brings out the blue in this gray. Like, you can definitely see how it does that. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the yarn, but I'll definitely have enough for another mitten, and I might even have extra, I don't know. But this is a mitten. So the pattern I used is none other than the Arched Gusset Mitten by Purl Soho. It's a free pattern that I'm sure you've heard about if you've been watching other people here on YouTube. I just modified it a little bit. I chose to do a twisted rib cuff at the bottom, and I was using a much thicker yarn than the pattern calls for, so I chose to do like a child small, like the very smallest size you can do. Yeah, I did even less than that. I cast on 30 stitches, and I think the pattern calls to cast on 31. So I just did a 30 stitch cast on. It definitely needs to be blocked. I have pretty small hands. So this is the mitten in action. I don't know, what do you think about it? Would you wear this? The thing is, like, so I went into that yarn store knowing I wanted to knit mittens, so I don't know, like I kind of was like, wasn't really worried about like, is this going to be a color that I'm going to wear a lot, because they're just mittens, you know, like I'm wearing them to be warm. I'm wearing them like if I want to go skiing. I want to be able to have, I don't know if these would be completely warm enough for skiing, but they're pretty warm. Like my hand is, it's hot in here. So, you know, it's okay. Like I still think it's a beautiful color, and just because it's not like in my typical colors I would wear, I still think I'll get wear out of it because they're so functional. Like this is such a warm and cozy glove. So I don't know, that's just, those are my thoughts about it. The pattern itself, I got a little confused because I thought that the increases were where the thumb was going to go. So I thought the thumb was going to go on this side. And if you've knit this before, maybe you understand. I thought it was going to be on this side. So I was getting confused. Like, how is this the right mitten? I don't understand. But you put the like original stitches on hold, and the increases are like your glove, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but if you've knit it, you understand probably. So yeah, that's that. I don't know what happened right here, but my cuff is just like sticking up a little bit. Maybe with blocking that will help, but it doesn't bother me much. I do kind of wish that I made the cuff a little longer, because I like when mittens like cover a good part of my wrist, because I have tiny little wrists and they get cold. So maybe with blocking I can stretch it out. But that's that on my birthday yarn acquisition / work in progress. I feel like I talked about that for forever. But yeah, that's that. Moving on to my next work in progress. I don't have that much to say about it because there's barely anything done. It doesn't really look like anything. But I finally cast it on for my Kerr sweater by Creabea. If you don't know who she is, you should check her out. I'll link her down below. She is a new knitwear designer that has come out with some really cool patterns, and as soon as I saw the Kerr sweater, it's spelled Kerr, I knew I wanted to try. I've never done color work before. It's a color work sweater, and I am kind of nervous, but reading the pattern and seeing the chart, I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, I don't have that much to say because I just started knitting it, but I will say I am knitting the size 4. It doesn't have much positive ease, I don't believe, if I'm remembering correctly, so I went with a size 4 because I want a little bit, it'll give me about 10 centimeters of positive ease. So yeah, size 4, and it goes up quite a bit in size, so it's very size inclusive is what I'm saying, which is nice. it's kind of, the construction is similar to my slipover, where you're doing the back and then the front panels and then you eventually join. I just joined the two front panels, so the back is hard to see because it's sitting on my stitch holder, but you can see I've joined the front panels and I've done the neck shaping, so that's where the collar will go. I'm worried that it will be too big, but I'm just going with it. You guys know I don't do gauge swatches, or maybe you don't know, but I don't. I just go with it. So yeah, since I don't have that much to say about the pattern, I'll just talk a little bit about the yarn now that I've been using it. I did talk about it when I bought it, but now that I'm using it, I have some thoughts. So these are the two colors I've chosen for the sweater. So this is the main color and this is the contrast color. The main color is this really nice emerald green. It's the Burroco Ultra Wool DK in the color, there's no color, it's just 83149, and this one is the color 8301. Yeah, it is a super washable. So I have mixed feelings. Superwash, it's not going to keep me that warm, but what I like about this is it is a very like structured toothy yarn, which for this pattern I really wanted that. I didn't want something like an alpaca or like the Woolfolk yarn that when blocked it just like melts into each other and becomes like very drapey. Like, of course I want it to block out nicely, but I think because it's color work, I don't know, and like just the whole like vibe of the sweater, like I just wanted something more rustic, I guess, and that's what this yarn is. It is like, I don't know if it's my gauge or I'm using the recommended needle size, maybe my gauge is just loose, I don't know, but it is quite like see-through, unless like, you know, my hand's up against it, you can't see through it, but so I imagine it's not going to keep me that warm, but I do see myself wearing this with my cream colored turtleneck that will pair very nicely with this color, so I'm not that worried. You know, I think it's gonna turn out really nice, but those are just my initial thoughts. It does quite hurt my hands a little bit. It doesn't hurt, it just like irritates my hands a little bit to knit with this. So, but that's okay. Whatever. I think it's gonna turn out nice. I really do like the colors, and I'm excited to start my first color work project. It definitely makes me want to knit more color work, or like I haven't even started it, but like watching Anna's podcast and seeing all the incredible color work that she's doing, like I just want to branch out and do more color work. So this is my introduction, so thank you, Rebecca, for creating this pattern. Yeah, very Christmassy, unintentional, very Christmassy. So that's that, and I think that's all I have to say about, yeah, that is all my works in progress. Now, I'm going to talk about a very exciting yarn acquisition. My Sorelli yarn finally came in the mail. I've been waiting for so long. I accidentally put in the wrong email address when I ordered this yarn, so I had no idea when it was going to come. Like, absolutely no idea. She did say when the collection released that it would be a 12-week turnaround, which is a pretty long time, but I just had no idea if my yarn had shipped, so I felt like I was waiting forever. But I finally got it, and it came in this beautiful box, and you can just tell there was so much like creativity and love and thought put into, sorry, I don't know if my camera just cut off. There was so much thought put into the collection. So this is the Autumn in New York collection, which means a lot to me because like going to the city and knitting is just one of my favorite things in the whole world, and living so close to the city, I've been able to take day trips there just alone. Like, for me, going into the city has been a very like self growth, like exploration type of experience, living so close to the city. So in New Jersey we call it the city, I actually didn't grow up in New Jersey. I grew up in Pennsylvania near Philly, so Philly was where I would usually go, but now it's the city. So anyway, I'll show you the yarn I got. First color I'll show is probably my favorite one. It's called Brooklyn. I love this. I wasn't expecting this to be my favorite out of all the ones I bought. So this is Brooklyn. It is a beautiful mix of blue, navy, brown, cream. Beautiful. Yeah, it's inspired by the architecture in Brooklyn. I will say I love going to Brooklyn. My favorite place I've gone there is the coffee shop Say Coffee. If you've never been and you're ever in that area, check it out. It's great, especially in the spring and summer because they open up the garage door. I would recommend going there. But yeah, this one's called Brooklyn, and it's the nylon sock 80-20, so 80% superwash and 20% nylon. I'm probably going to make socks out of this. I don't know what else to make out of this. Maybe like a Sophie scarf, but I have 400 yards here. So as of right now, it's just going to sit on my shelf and act as decoration because I don't even want to like take it out of its hank. It's too beautiful. Okay, the second one I got is this one. It's called Brick, and it is inspired by the brick buildings like in Manhattan. You see them all over the city. It's so beautiful. This is the cashmere sock, 80% superwash, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. I've never knit with cashmere, so I'm pretty excited. I think I want to make this a beanie. I think it will be a lovely beanie and flatter my hair and skin tone pretty well, especially in the winter when I'm like ghostly pale. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love this one also. I love all of them, but and then the third one I got was Sweater Weather, which is just like a beautiful rustic warm terracotta almost color. It's coming up a little bit more like brown on camera. I mean it is, but it's got like terracotta-esque vibes to it, and it's just like, it reminds me of like fall leaves basically, like a autumn tree, I guess. This is also the cashmere sock blend. So I don't know what I'll end up doing with this, but these two together, lovely. These are all three of them together. And I also got some wool wash that smells absolutely amazing. I hate the smell of wet wool. Like every time I have to block, I have to like hold my nose because I hate the smell of wet wool. But the wool wash completely, pretty much, it still leaves like the wool scent, but it's not overbearing, you know? So yeah, I think that's all I have to talk about. I did have someone comment in my last podcast asking for a book recommendation, so I'm just going to share the book that I'm reading right now. I'm only one chapter in, so I can't recommend it yet, but it's this. It's called Death at Intervals by this Portuguese author that I don't even want to butcher his name, so I'm just going to leave it there. I got this book while I was in Portugal, and yeah, I'm liking it so far. Basically what's happened is there's this country and in this world, and only in this country has no one died. Like, it's New Year's Day and no one has died on New Year's Day. So society is just like, what the heck is going on? Like, what is this phenomenon? Why is no one dying? Like, you know, it's like eternal life on Earth basically, whereas everywhere else in the world things are just normal. So yeah, it's really, I like the style of writing so far. It's kind of sucked me in, and I really like, I just imagine society like turning into chaos from this. Like, that's how I envision the story going. I have no idea how it's gonna go, but in a world where no one dies, like, one, why is this happening is my first question, and 2, like, what will this do to humanity? I think, like, people might seek to go here to have, like, eternal life on Earth, but honestly, I think, like, and it says in the book, it's more of, like a nightmare, you know? I don't know. That's just my initial thoughts. So, have you read this book? If you have, let me know your thoughts, and, yeah, I'll let you know what I think about it. That's all I have to say. That's everything. It's already 40 minutes. 40 minutes have gone by, and that's quite a while. So, thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I guess I'll see you next time. Until then, happy knitting, and I'll see you later. Bye.